I'm Jason Winning, and this is the third video in a series of Hypernomicon tutorial videos. In this video, I will demonstrate how to integrate Hypernomicon with existing reference managers such as Zotero, Mendeley, and possibly at the time you're watching this, EndNote, or others as well. Reference managers like Zotero and Mendeley are used to keep track of the bibliographic details for your sources, so that you can automatically generate bibliographies without having to worry about the formatting details, something that Hypernomicon by itself does not do. In this tutorial, I will be demonstrating how to integrate Hypernomicon with Zotero. The steps shown here will apply straightforwardly to other reference managers like Mendeley as well. The first step is to link your database with the Zotero account. Here I will assume you have a pre-existing Hypernomicon database. For instructions to create a new database, see the introductory tutorial video. Under the Tools menu, select Settings. Select the Bibliography Manager settings page. Click Link to Zotero account. Additional steps to follow will appear. Click the Go to Verification webpage link. This will open the Zotero website, which will prompt you to enter your credentials. Click Accept Defaults to grant Hypernomicon access to your account. A verification code is then displayed. Highlight this code and copy it to the clipboard. Go back to Hypernomicon and click the Paste button to paste the verification code into the entry field at step 3. Now click Verify. After your library data is downloaded, you will see a message saying that this database is currently linked to a Zotero library. Note that your reference manager is able to keep track of many pieces of information that are not stored in Hypernomicon work records. For example, the volume and issue numbers for journal articles, or the publisher name and location for books. Hypernomicon leaves all of this additional information intact, and actually keeps it stored locally in your reference manager's original data format. So you don't have to worry about data being corrupted due to conversion from one format to another, as sometimes happens when importing data from one reference manager to another. When you exit the settings window, you will see that a new button has appeared. This allows you to access the Bibliographic Entry Manager window. This window lists all of the entries in your linked Zotero library. If you make changes to the entries from Zotero, you can make sure those changes are up to date in Hypernomicon by clicking the Sync button. When you select an entry from the list, its information will be displayed in the rightmost panel. When you first link your database with your Zotero account, no associations will be established yet between individual Zotero entries and individual Hypernomicon work records. To assign a Zotero entry to a Hypernomicon work record, select an entry and click Assign to Work Record. You are then prompted to select the author and work record that it should be assigned to. You also have the option to create a new work record to assign to this entry. Once you select one of the options at the bottom, information from the Zotero entry will be copied or merged into the work record. If assigning to an existing work record, you will be presented with options for how to merge the Zotero entry data with the Hypernomicon work data. I will assign several other entries to work records as well. After a Zotero entry has been assigned to a work record, the work record's ID number will display in the Work Record ID column. When you double-click this entry, the work record assigned to that entry will be activated in the main Hypernomicon window. From now on, any change that is made to either one will automatically update the other as well. This is the primary advantage of integrating Hypernomicon with your reference manager. For example, here is a paper I am working on in Google Docs, where I am using the Zotero connector to manage my citations and bibliography. Suppose I notice that I have misspelled an author's name. I can now go to that author's person record in Hypernomicon and correct the spelling of the name. Next, I will go back to the Bibliographic Entry Manager and sync the data to Zotero. Now when I go back to my paper and refresh Zotero, the author's name will be automatically updated for all 3 entries where he appears in the bibliography. Making a change to entries in Zotero will also automatically update the associated records in Hypernomicon. In the Zotero website, I will update the title of one of the entries that has been misspelled. Back in Hypernomicon, after I sync with Zotero, my change to the title will be reflected in the work record. Once your database is linked to a reference manager account, there will be a number of places where it is possible to specify that you would like to create a new reference manager entry to assign to a work record. When you navigate to a work record on the Works tab of the main window, you will see a button next to the New Chapter button that allows you to select a reference manager entry to assign to this work record. When you click this button, the Bibliographic Entry Manager window opens. You then have 2 options. You can select an existing entry and click Assign to Work Record to assign the entry to the work record, or you can assign the work record to a new entry by selecting the entry type on the bottom right of the window and clicking Create New. Note that this new entry is missing several pieces of information that would normally be included in a journal article entry. If you click the Autofill button, Hypernomicon will try to fill in other bibliographic information for the new entry from the PDF file or from online sources. When we go back to the main window, the button has now changed color, indicating that the work is assigned to a reference manager entry, and it can be accessed by clicking that button. Additionally, when importing a PDF file into a new work record, Hypernomicon will try to autofill bibliographic information from the internet and will ask you if you want to create an associated reference manager entry. Similarly, you can create a new reference manager entry when importing a citation information file, such as an RIS file. One of the most frustrating things about using existing reference managers is that they often treat your bibliographic entries as if they were totally unrelated to each other. Or if they do support relationships, it is often in a very minimal way. Hypernomicon makes it easy to synchronize data between bibliographic entries that are related to each other. We've already seen one example of this. It's easy to simultaneously update multiple entries that have the same author. Another example is where you may have multiple chapters from the same book in your library, or where a chapter and the book itself are both in your library. Hypernomicon can keep track of these kinds of relationships between work records, as demonstrated in the file management tutorial video. When you select a bibliographic entry with related entries, the option to view these related entries will be enabled in the top right panel. When you click on it, entries related to this one will be shown, and you can change the current selection to one of those entries by double-clicking on it. By clicking the Use this entry's book data to update button, information that is not already stored within Hypernomicon work records, such as the publisher and publisher location, will be copied from this entry to the related entries so that they match. For instance, here the publisher is listed as Human instead of the correct name, Humana. I will first go to Zotero to make the correction. However, other entries in the same book still have the error. Next, back in Hypernomicon after syncing, I can click the button to make sure that all the entries have the same book information. Now, all of the entries have the correct publisher. Although the primary purpose of reference managers is to manage your bibliographic information and automatically generate formatted citations and bibliographies, modern reference managers like Zotero and Mendeley are packed with many extra features that extend beyond their original function. Many people use their reference manager to manage their PDFs as well. But their functionality here is generally limited. This is because there are inherent conflicts between the goals of an effective reference manager and the goals of an effective PDF manager. There will generally be many PDFs and other files that you need to keep track of that you will never use in a bibliography, and there will be many entries that you need to be able to cite, but for which you do not need the PDF file. Generally, reference managers are not able to associate multiple entries with a single PDF file, for example when you have multiple entries for chapters of the same book. The features that make Zotero and Mendeley so flexible and interoperable as a reference manager actually prevent them from being an effective system for managing PDFs. For example, the information that you need in order to find a given PDF may be different than the information in the associated bibliographic entry, and the bibliographic details that you want to use in your bibliography may be different from those in the PDF file itself. This might happen if you want to cite the original publication details of a journal article, while your PDF version is of a chapter of a book where the article was reprinted. For all of these reasons, it is highly recommended that you use a reference manager like Zotero or Mendeley to manage your bibliographic details and use Hypernomicon to manage the actual PDF files. As a PDF manager, Hypernomicon is more flexible and powerful. For details on this, see the Hypernomicon file management tutorial video. The way Hypernomicon stores information is compatible with existing cloud services like Dropbox, so that when you use Hypernomicon, it is easy to access your PDF files on other devices without needing to use a special app or to pay for a premium reference manager account. The following instructions can be used to prevent Zotero from downloading and attaching PDFs to your bibliographic entries so that you are not storing multiple copies of the same file. In the Zotero desktop application, go to Edit, Preferences, and uncheck the option Automatically Attach Associated PDFs and Other Files when saving items. Also, go to the Sync settings and uncheck the option Sync Attachment Files in My Library. If you have existing PDF files in your reference manager that you want to import to Hypernomicon, this can be done by navigating to the folder where your reference manager stores its PDFs and dragging and dropping them one at a time into Hypernomicon. This folder can be found in the Zotero desktop application by going to Edit, Preferences, Advanced, Files and Folders, Show Data Directory. During the import process, Hypernomicon will automatically match the PDF file with any existing work record and/or reference entry. It will automatically add missing information from internet sources, and it will give you the option to create an assigned work record. See the Hypernomicon file management tutorial for more details about creating work records and importing work files. The reason why Hypernomicon does not have an option to import all the entries and files at one time into database records is because this goes against the purpose of Hypernomicon. The application is not intended to provide a space where your PDF files rapidly accumulate into a disorderly pile. It is assumed that as you import your works one at a time, you will be thoughtfully adding additional records to organize your knowledge and files into a coherent structure that will be useful to you for a long time, as demonstrated in the introductory tutorial video. This is another difference from reference managers, which often operate on the assumption that you want to indiscriminately stuff as much information as quickly and easily as possible into your library. And even though reference managers include organizational methods like folders and tags, they are treated more as an afterthought rather than as core design features. The point of Hypernomicon is not to grow your database to be as large and comprehensive as possible with little regard for organization. It is the opposite. To have an external record of the ways you have organized your ideas and information in your own mind, and to make that knowledge organization instantly available to you at any time in the future, not just for the purpose of generating a bibliography, but to facilitate your own thinking and writing. Thanks for watching.